Well, friends, it's official. Mark Carney has been sworn in as the 24th prime fascist in Canada. His first act of duty was to obviously fly to Europe, trash America, and showcase his globalist bona fide. He also seems quite snippy and short tempered when anyone asks him a question that he doesn't really like. Trump also weighs in on his preference between Carnage and Polyev, and Polyev responds as well. And we even have Doug Ford with his thoughts on Carney and Polyev. Why do I have this feeling that 2025, rather than being an exit off of the roller coaster that has been the 2020s, is now us moving up the hill gradually towards the steepest drop so far in the roller coaster that is the 2020s? Strap in, friends. We're in for a bumpy ride. It's March 20th. I'm Andrew DeBartolo. That's Matt Halleck. This is Liberty Dispatch.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Liberty Dispatch, where we bring you conservative Canadian news and analysis like you don't get anywhere else. We are an unapologetically Christian show, and we give you an unapologetically Christian perspective on the news, on Canadian culture, and we try and keep you up to date with what's going on. Make sure you like and subscribe to our Rumble and our YouTube channels. Wherever you listen, if you like what we do, you know what to do. It helps the show so much. And we are growing significantly. The numbers are good. It's positive direction. So if you can play your part by helping share the show with a friend or becoming a paid subscriber over at our Substack page, that's ldcanada.substack.com. Please go over there, consider becoming a paid subscriber, support our work. That way you will also have access to all our full litany of episodes and the full episodes that we come out with, like we did last week, Andrew. We came out with 2 full episodes of LD interviews with our friends Chris Sims and John Carpe. Just wonderful discussions. I talked to Chris, you talked to John, but you can't get those full interviews and some of the spicy things that were said behind the scenes unless you become a paid LD Substack subscriber. So go ldcanada.substack.com and you can become a paid subscriber for a very nominal fee. It is very, very, it does help us so very much. Also, you can reach out to us over at our email, libertydispatch@pm.me, libertydispatch@pm.me. Andrew, a lot has happened since we last got together to do an episode. Yes. So I'm really excited to see you. Including we got a new prime minister. That's big.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, new in the, well, first of all, big, whatever, but new in the sense that it's kind of been the plan for the last 6 months.
It's meet the a new boss, the same as the old boss type stuff as well. So
two quick things I want to say before we get into our show. The first one is this: this whole Trump tariff, annexing, sedition, leaving, seceding, all this stuff has generated tremendous discussion, lots of points of contention. So what we're going to do for you, and by the way, this I'm revealing this in real time, even to Matt for the first time. I'm going to get his real-time reaction here.
Okay, so let's go.
Our plan is we will, once we have 2 more interviews that we want to line up. Our plan for you is we're going to release all in 1 week. We're going to release several interviews that are all around the topic of secession, annexation, joining the states, tariffs, all that stuff. And I'll let you know who the interviews are with, just so you get a sense. We'll be talking with Tim Stevens about the article he wrote about Alberta becoming the 51st state. Dr. David Haskell about the article he wrote about Americans inviting Canadians to join. We're going to have a discussion with Pastor Aaron Rock about his episode of Leadership Now, where he talked about what's patriotism and sedition, treason, and secession. And then we're also going to have a discussion with Pastor Alex Kloosterman at Hill City Baptist Church.
That's
where
it.
I'm so excited about everything that's going on.
Yeah.
I can't get my words together. And we're going to talk with Alex primarily about what is patriotism and one's loyalty to the state as opposed to the nation in light of this. And so what this really represents four slightly different perspectives on this,
because we're nothing if not nuanced on this podcast. So
and so what we want to do is we want to release them all in 1 week.
Yeah.
And we want to release it to you as a way to help you understand these topics, these issues, make your own decision, come to your own conclusions based on the scriptures. So obviously you're going to get access to the majority of the interviews, but all of those interviews will have a section that'll be particularly delicious that you will not be able to listen to if you're not a paid subscriber. So all four of those discussions will have some wonderful morsels of spicy chocolate cake
and Andrew,
in order for you to devour.
Andrew, I just want to jump in because I think this is really important. I know that there's a lot of content creators, people who are doing in this space who are doing Canadian news and analysis, and they're very quick to move on. They're very quick to see something, think that, okay, there was a moment in time to talk about it. You know, we're on to the next thing in the cycle. But that's really reflexive. That you can get into a dangerous reflective loop when you're chasing stories like that. So that's why our show is less, obviously, because it's just you and I, less chasing down news, but more providing worldview commentary and analysis on what is going on in Canada, which allows us to do deep dives like you're talking about to a greater extent. We don't feel the need to chase after the news stories, but when we're talking about something as serious as leaving a union, becoming a part of another country, well, you can't do those in 20-second or 20-minute segments one time when it's the most relevant. And to me, that's a big part of Canadian politics that is missing, especially because we have such small, like, political cycles when it comes to elections and everything. It's like everybody pays attention to Canadian politics for 30 days, once every 4 or so years, and then everybody kind of goes about their business, where we really need to have these deep conversations. And we're having these deep conversations with men we trust, we know, we love, we appreciate, and then also that might disagree. And the point is to help you be good Bereans, to bring different perspectives, to have these bigger conversations so we can think Christianly about this issue, about Canada becoming the 51st state. It's going to be a wonderful time. Maybe Andrew will have to go live or something. We'll have to do something and maybe get people to give us questions, interact with us on what they thought about the 4-part kind of interview series here, because it should be really good. I'm looking forward to it, and I didn't know it was happening, so I'm stoked now.
Yeah. So you're going to want, and the reason why we do the news brief is, Matt, what you're talking about is the news brief is a way of keeping you up to date with what's new, what's pressing. We want to get you the stories so that you're up to date with the news cycle. But we need the time to focus in on some of these worldview issues. So you need to become a subscriber, first of all, to join our mailing list. But if you want to see all those full interviews, and you are going to want to see those full interviews, you have to become a paid subscriber. There's another reason why, and there's a second thing why you definitely want to become a subscriber over at ldcanada.substack.com. And that is that we are going to be hosting a 3-part Bitcoin webinar series. Matt and I'll be hosting it, and it'll be run by and put on and taught by the guys over at Bull Bitcoin. And so you want to plan to attend this 3-part Bitcoin webinar series. And so it's free to attend, and it's going to include questions, audience participation, a Q&A time. They will all be happening on a Friday evening, 3 Friday evenings in a row, beginning Friday, April 25th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. That way our friends over in the West Coast can join, after dinner time. And so it's going to be Friday, April 25th, Friday, May 2nd, Friday, May 9th, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. They start. They're going to be about 30 minutes. And if you want to attend, you have to join our mailing list by subscribing over at ldcanada.substack.com. That is where we'll be sending out the link. That is where we'll be sending out the information so that you'll be able to attend. It's not just going to be blasted everywhere. It's going to be for our subscribers to check out. We're also going to be recording the sessions and releasing them at a later date. But if you want to get in on the ground level, if you have questions you want to ask Pablo about, Bitcoin for freedom, Bitcoin is the liberty currency, Bitcoin 101, how to buy, how to store Bitcoin. Those are the 3 sessions: Bitcoin for liberty, Bitcoin 101, and then how to buy and how to store Bitcoin. Those will be the 3 sessions. This is going to be for experienced Bitcoiners or people who know nothing about it. You are all welcome. Save those dates right now. 3 Fridays in a row, April 25, May 2nd, May 9th, 9 p.m. Eastern Time till about 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You have to subscribe if you want to attend. That's the only way you'll be getting the link, and you'll be invited to join the 3-part Bitcoin webinar series. I'm very excited about this. Pablo is doing some good work. It's going to be really, really good. So with that out of the way, we have another message. This message is for all of the salespeople in our audience. You know that selling is hard work, but the rewarding part is the relationships you build with your customers, you build with those around you. The secret to success in sales is creating those relationships. It's not just about the product, but it's about those relationships of trust everywhere that you can. Not too often you get buried with the busy work and all the administrative work. The day goes by without enough real connection with your customers. So I want you to take a look at Sales Nexus. Sales Nexus is built to help salespeople automate all the busy work and focus on customers that are ready for a relationship. You can try it free at salesnexus.com and make sure you tell them that we over here at Liberty Dispatch sent you. As you said, Matt, we now have a newly sworn in 24th prime fascist of Canada. And I didn't want to play.
Do you think he's the 24th prime fascist, or he just himself is a prime fascist?
Yeah,
outside of the lineage of a prime minister.
He's the 24th, prime fascist of Canada. So we haven't had 24, but the title has now officially been changed. So Trudeau,
it has. Okay,
it was a transition period when Trudeau was prime tyrant. And now we have officially moved over, and so as long as Mark Carney is at the helm, it is the office of the prime fascist of Canada. So I wanted to spare you all the full nauseating vomit fest of self-congratulatory globalist elitist garbage because I care about you. So I just kind of clipped together Mark Carney lying through his teeth and promising to do what he certainly will not do in this position, and then everyone applauding their globalist friend now becoming ruler supreme in Canada. So here's just a snippet of what happened just a few days ago.
I, Mark Carney, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty, King Charles III, King of Canada, his heirs and successors.
We have a lie counter. Ding! That's the first one.
We should.
Do solemnly and sincerely swear that I shall be a true and faithful servant to His Majesty, King Charles III, as a member of His Majesty's Privy Council for Canada. I will, in all things, to be treated, debated, and resolved in Privy Council, faithfully, honestly, and truly declare my mind and my opinion.
Ding, ding, ding. There's 3 there.
Keep secret all matters committed and revealed to me in this capacity, or that shall be secretly treated of in council.
That's
except
probably
generally in all things,
except the Klaus Schwab. Ding.
Faithful and true servant ought to do for His Majesty.
Ding. I think we're up to 11 so far.
I, Mark
Do you
Carney,
think he thinks His Majesty is Klaus Schwab?
promise and swear
I
I
mean,
will truly and faithfully,
His Majesty's a
to the
Davos
best
man,
of
so
my skill and knowledge, execute the powers and trust reposed in me as Prime Minister.
This 2 dings, okay? 13. Look, bad luck 13. Isn't that great? 13 dings.
Is this him signing his fake executive order?
No, this is him. This is him signing away the well-being and economic stability of Canada. Goodbye.
Congratulations, Prime Minister.
I feel like they couldn't do a better job getting better camera angles.
Especially right there, it's like, no, you sit here. No, you sit here. And if we keep watching the video, Carney and I think the Governor General keep doing this tango dance of who sits where. It's really awkward. Like,
no, it does kind of look awkward. The optics are weird. We're gonna have to issue a totally different warning when Mark Carney plays, right? When Marximum Carnage is up there talking, we're going to have to issue a warning that don't operate heavy machinery because there's a very good chance you're going to fall asleep and die at the wheel.
Yeah, if you suffer from narcolepsy, you will certainly be plunged into a coma. Almost certainly that will happen.
Yeah, like what
Drink
we said.
a 5-hour energy before you listen. To Mark's comment.
Exactly. Like you'll need a full blood transfusion to get through his interviews and stuff like that. It is pretty crazy. We talked about it. Trudeau's the face. Carney's the brain behind this globalist, progressive Marxism that we've talked about. But I'm starting to doubt how smart he is. Maybe he's just not polished. He's clever. He's duplicitous. He's just not polished. He's not a good face, and I think that's what's coming out.
We're going to see a clip later on where even the CBC, the Canadian Pravda Corporation panel, says he's not a politician. He's not used to talking to people. They say he's a banker. He doesn't talk to people.
Yeah.
What I find curious about that whole scene is they try to fill it with all the pomp and circumstance, except it's all theater. Mm-hmm. His fate as prime minister was determined long ago. All of the systems were put in place. Why is it that we may cover this at some point, although I think it's ultimately irrelevant. Mm-hmm. Why is it that and Paulie, was asked this question, why is it that out of a supposed 300,000 to 400,000 eligible Liberal member voters, only 140 or so thousand votes were cast? And that seems curious. Apparently Chrystia Freeland only got something like 128 votes in her riding. Yeah,
I think Rebel covered that there was some pretty big irregularities as far as
they make it look like it's all official, but it's not official. It's theater. It's WWE. The whole thing's scripted. It's all planned. There's no free choices being made at all. It's all unfolding.
Yeah, well, and I think that's what has really come to light is this. It is a lot of kayfabe, right? When Justin gets on that platform and says we're going to have a free and fair process that's going to be a nationwide competitive process to determine the next leader of the Liberal Party. Even Liberals themselves, like Rudy Dalla, was saying, no, this was always a coronation of Mark Carney. And you see that in the fact that he got over 85% of the vote, whatever vote that was. It wasn't much of a vote. And it was super suspicious because apparently in most of the ridings he won by like exactly the same vote margin. So that's a little suspicious, even in like Chrystia Freeland's riding that you're talking about. Like she was the deputy prime minister and she got like 100 votes for the Liberal leadership in her own home riding. Like that's crazy sauce. Yep. And weird.
So he's sworn in as prime minister. So really, I mean, Parliament is prorogued. So Parliament's not doing anything. We are in the middle. We're in the throes of everyone's telling us of a tariff and trade war. World War III is about to approach with Ukraine. Our economy is plunging into ruin. The interest rate keeps getting dropped. It's all bad. So now that he's been sworn in, now that he's at the helm, it's time for him to get to work. It's time for him to call Parliament back. It's time for him to sit down in Ottawa, right? No. What's the first thing he does? Off to France and London. Let's go. France and England. Time to go have a spot of tea. Time to have a spot of tea with the king, yeah? And then off to France to cozy up and have a croissant with the Macron de Marxist in France. Like this, unbelievable. Like no, but he's a foreigner. Foreigner, he's an outsider.
He's more comfortable in Europe than he is in Canada.
Apparently, one of the qualifications of being prime minister is you have to have lived the last 1,800 days in Canada, which he has not. So, anyways, here he is off to France, off to England, and what is he doing? He's bashing the United States. He's wanting us to join the European Union from across the Atlantic, I guess, and so this is Mark's commie and Emmanuel Macron.
To be fair, Andrew, he was at least honest enough to tell us that he is a Marxist, or not a Marxist. Pardon me. That he is a globalist and an elitist. Right,
yeah.
So at least he was honest enough about it. So let's take a look.
How kind of him.
With you, Mr. President, I want to ensure that France and the whole of Europe works enthusiastically with Canada, the most European of non-European countries, determined like you to maintain the most positive possible relations with the United States. Canada is a reliable, trustworthy, and strong partner of France, which shares our values and lives them through action during this age of economic and geopolitical crises.
There you have it, Andrew. He went to France to hang out with Macron. And the amazing part, too, Andrew, I don't know if you know this, but he was not met by Macron when he landed. He was met by some sort of official who's like not particularly high ranking. He's just some dude went and met with him, and that's really all that he got. And interestingly enough as well, he, as you said, he also went over and had a spot of tea with His Majesty, and also he talked to Keir Starmer. But Keir Starmer, interestingly enough, would not do a joint press conference with him.
Correct.
So it's very interesting to me that you have these world leaders who, you know, Mark Carney's going over there to rub shoulders, but they're, you know, not showing him the most respect, and they're kind of distancing themselves from him. No doubt likely to avoid, you know, getting in the crosshairs of one Donald Trump.
We don't want the states to come after us. They're the real scary dog.
Yeah, but the thing is, he left Canada in the context that you were talking about in a tumultuous time immediately upon becoming the prime minister. Like, this is the first stuff he's doing. He's going to Europe to talk to his globalist buddies about cozying up with them and about suing the Americans. Not even they, you know, want to come out and say that, but it's so interesting. He doesn't come back with a deal, right? Where did he go after this? He went to Nunavut. Like, he's a boring, gutless man who is, instead of going into the thick of things where there's issues, he is dodging the most important issues so he can go to the places where he feels the most comfortable.
To work his backdoor globalist dealings, I'm sure. It's funny that he says that Canada is the most European country that isn't in Europe.
Yes.
I don't think he understands how prophetic that is. Like the high priest in the Gospels who prophesied that Jesus indeed would die so that the rest of the people wouldn't suffer, not realizing he was actually making a prophetic statement. I think Mark Carney did make a prophetic statement, and the statement he made, not realizing it, was, like Europe, Canada is importing Islamists at an alarming rate, and our major cities are being taken over first by taqiyya and then by outright jihad. And so the major cities in Canada are starting to look a lot like what's happening in Europe, like in Montreal and Toronto. You have tens of thousands of people blocking off streets, praying the Shahada, actually taking over major cities in Canada, looking to establish caliphate. So he's right. Canada probably is the most European non-European country.
And this is a super important point that kind of gets into Canadian sovereignty, the future of Canada as a nation. I saw quickly after, Trump doing his trolling about Canada becoming a 51st state, Governor Trudeau, that many Liberals' response was what? Instead of joining America, we should join Europe. And that's essentially what we have. We have two countries in Canada. I think the average Canadian would probably feel more akin to an American, honestly, despite our little brother syndrome, despite kind of identifying as not Americans. I think most Canadians would probably say, they're our closest neighbor, they're our closest friend. But the problem is the globalist elites, the Laurentian elites in Canada, they want to see themselves as fancy Europeans, right? They're the cool foreigners that we want to pretend like we're like. The problem is, as you make mention, Europe is in a horrible situation. Their economies are terrible. Only economy that is worse is Canada's economy. They're doing all the same stupid stuff.
England will fall to Sharia law in 10 to 15 years. It's almost certain at this point.
Yeah, Europe's been on a trajectory of decadent decline for decades at this point. And Canada, if you want to be the most non-European nation ever, that's saying we want to head for the toilet too.
Right.
But Andrew,
it's the loo. No, it's the loo in France.
Yes.
The loo.
The more important thing, and this is, I think, the real danger, is Marxism carnage is setting us up to become, and this is my prediction, if he has a extenuated circumstance, he is going to set us up to be a part of the European Union, because he's going to use the trade wars, the back and forth with the United States, the threats on our sovereignty as the boogeyman, in which he's going to push us into the arms of the Europeans. He's already talking like that, as we're going to see in the press conferences, that, if we're going to be strategically aligned with the Europeans on trade wars, then we have to play the climate game. So,
and this is the next clip here. So this is now he's in England. So this is the after his trip to France.
Yeah.
Now he's holding a press conference in England, and as you said, Starmer would not do a joint press conference with him. So here he is on his own,
taking
in the fatherland, and then they won't even Mark's commie. All right, let's watch this.
In Canada today, your political opponent, Mr. Poilievre, said that he would axe the industrial price on carbon. And I'd like to understand from you if you think that at this time, with all the threats against many of our big mainstay industries, which also are large emitters, if you think that your plan to tax them remains a viable and publicly supported plan.
Yeah. So our plan, and in fact the regime that's in place in Canada, and
that's the good way to describe it, Mark. Regime. It's not an administration.
I think he meant to say regiment, but he had it slip. He's like, our regime.
Quebec and British Columbia
Freudian slip.
is to have a form of price for the largest on carbon, for the largest emitters, said differently, the largest polluters. Now, what we are
has he ever spoken before people before?
Changing that system or improving that system so that the price that's paid,
oh my goodness,
and the price that's paid can be reduced by so-called carbon credits that are allocated. We're adding additional ones. We will be adding additional ones that ensure that the polluters are paying to so that Canadians can receive support to reduce their own emissions. So it's a more efficient system. It works better for the large polluters. It works better for Canadians. And it also is a system that recognizes the new trading reality. So we have to be able to connect the dots, something that the opposition is totally incapable of doing, proven themselves totally incapable of doing. So on the one hand, we have our largest trading partner.
I can connect the dots, Mark.
Putting tariffs on us. On the other hand, we have the opportunity to diversify trade. Guess what one of the requirements is to diversify trade to the European Union? Guess what one of the requirements is to diversify trade to the United Kingdom?
This is key.
One of the requirements will be to diversify trade to emerging Asia. Is to have
also China.
Price on carbon. So we are able to think one step ahead. We're able to go out and see the world. We're able to help Canadian companies prepare. And you know what's going to happen? 5 years, 10 years from now, if I have the pleasure of being in front of you, you'll be asking me the question, if we didn't do this, if we didn't help our companies get more prepared, the Americans are going to start caring about this again. They have elections every 4 years. They cared a great deal about this 3 months ago. Now all of a sudden they don't care about it. They're going to care about it again.
Man, it is hard to watch him talk for 2 minutes. It's bad. But I think that's such an important key, right? Because so at the same time he's having these performative acts where he's fake signing an executive order to get rid of the carbon tax on consumers. He can't do that, obviously. But all they did was just play a trick where they they're still charging the carbon tax. The amount they're charging is zero. That's how they're doing it. So they can't even get rid of the carbon tax without Parliament with it as it's prorogued.
Yeah,
but
it's just saying we're not making you take a spoonful of medicine. We're inserting the suppository. That's we're not actually taking the medicine. It's just suppository. That's all.
Yeah, empty suppository, I suppose. But yeah. I mean, we know that he's a carbon tax Carney. He's written in his books. He's been all about it forever. Nobody just changes their worldview like that. And you can see it coming out here is what he's saying is Canada will still tax carbon emissions at an exceedingly high price because he says it's in our economic best interest to tie our arms behind our back and tie our legs together because that's what Europe's doing because the Davos elite told them they have to do that, right? Like the thing he doesn't talk about is it's not as though it's a foregone conclusion. It's not as though we're talking about the character and the nature of God that's immutable, that it can't change, that Europe has to have a price on carbon emissions. Europe could stop being insane and they could stop their insane regulations and taxing the air, and that would make everybody better off. But instead, he's trying to manipulate people by saying, well, I have enough foresight. Yeah, because you and your Davos elite buddies have planned to make this transition and force it on everybody, no matter how idiotic, no matter how dangerous, and no matter how much it makes the ordinary Canadian citizen poor. And the people at Brookshire Financial or Assets Management or whatever, a bunch of money.
Brookfield.
Sorry, Brookfield.
Yeah.
Brookfield.
I'm
in England. Yeah, I'm in England. Yeah. No, it's
your friends over at Brookshire.
Yeah, exactly. It's unbelievable to see, but again, not surprising.
Well, there's net zero is the god. Right?
Yes.
Net zero is the climate god, and we want to show a clip that this is nothing new. Like you said, Matt, it's in his book, and here's a clip showing that his
interview on TiVo about his book Values. Yeah,
he is married. He is committed all the way to net zero.
private sector is becoming oriented to net zero. The public sector or these international financial institutions should be leading the way. There's promising developments, but over the balance of this year, working with the Italian presidency of the G20, the UK, and Italy as co-chairs, we need to get the multilateral development banks in this place. And let me make one other crucial point here, which is it's not just aligning those balance sheets, but it's how they're used, because in the end, we're talking tens of trillions of balance sheets. It's billions, sorry, tens of billions of balance sheets of these MDBs like the World Bank and others, but they can leverage trillions of private sector flows. And as you get the private sector now oriented to net zero, more effective use of those public sector balance sheets, particularly to get the flows to emerging and developing economies for the type of mitigation, carbon reduction that we need to get to net zero.
So there you go. My apologies. Same background, different clip. But I've seen him do an interview on TiVo. You can check it out. I'll put it in the links.
I want to translate something, and I want to cut through the euphemism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Help the private sector move toward net zero. What he really means is force private businesses through threat of crushing them and economically devastating them to comply with your climate cultism. That's what that actually means.
Yeah,
and
100%.
at the very end there was a curious little bit at the end. We talked about developing nations, which is, so what we're going to do is all of these countries in the developed world, in the Western world, we're going to crush them by forcing businesses to comply with net zero. Otherwise, they will suffer the consequences. And we're just not going after those people. No. All these other, like all the countries, like in Asia and Africa, we also want to destroy them. We want to kind of let them build up. We're also going to destroy them by forcing them to come along the net zero nightmare train ride. So that's his commitment. And he's over in Europe, basically saying, hey, everyone, this is what we're committed to, right? We're committed to this, and we're committed to this together, working together so that the entire world can destroy individual nation states and individual national sovereignty, so that we can usher in a globalist utopia where we all have the same currency and the same military and the same governance and the same health establishment, because we're incapable of leading our own nations. We need globalist oversight. That's where this is going. Okay,
100%. And I think it's helpful to understand the contrast here, right? What is he distancing himself? Well, he's signaled, we're not going to be them like the Americans. One would think maybe the most important relationship for him to build immediately, given the trade wars that are happening currently, the tariffs that are looming at the beginning of
next door neighbor
of April. You're right. They're using all this flowery language about they're our best friend and our neighbor and our biggest ally. You'd imagine, well, maybe you would go to them first.
Yeah.
Maybe it would make sense to go to Donald Trump first and have these conversations. But no, what he's doing is he's going to his globalist elite buddies that he knows from college and university, right? You have to understand, globalists have more in common with the elites, the world elites, than they do their own nation, that they do their own citizens, right? They swim in the same ecosystem together. Though they might be international, they still swim in that same ecosystem. So Mark Carney has far more in common with Macron and Starmer than he does with Jeff from Alberta. Right?
Yeah.
He doesn't know Jeff. He's not lived a life like Jeff. He's a central banker. He's a bureaucrat par excellence. And what he's positioning Canada to do is, instead of becoming like America, where we're deregulating, we're cutting taxes, we're becoming more nationalistic in an appropriate sense of thinking about our nation first. The jurisdiction that God's given us is the most important sphere that we're going to be worried about. We're going to build ourselves up, right? You think of Trump's joint session speech. It was the golden age of of America. That's what we're looking for. No, he doesn't want that. He wants crushing bureaucracy. They're going to talk about Canadian sovereignty. Well, the whole thing about the EU is a bunch of European countries just gave away their sovereignty, not nominally, but practically, to a bunch of elites who govern them from Brussels, and they're aloof to what's going on in Austria or Vienna, Edinburgh, all these things. And that's created massive consternation in Europe. So that's Mark Carney's picture of the future for Canada. Massive bureaucracy, massive regulation, the government directing, picking winners and losers with the power of the government gun, directing the economy towards our utopian future. So not Donald Trump, globalist.
And putting everyone to sleep with his exceedingly boring press conferences. That's Mark Carney's plan. You fall asleep during his press conferences, so you don't actually know what he says. That's by design. Now, we want to talk a little bit about his press conferences, because aside from being so boring, I mean, I never thought I would be saying this, but it is more entertaining. It is more entertaining to watch former prime fascist one blackface Trudeau, than it is Mark Carney. Which is just, I mean, I can't believe I'm saying that.
Yeah, because he could act out the role of PM far better than
he was a drama teacher.
Yeah.
So other than that, it also appears that whenever someone asks a question that Maximum Carnage doesn't like, he doesn't know how to handle getting all hot under the collar, and so we want to show you a little bit of someone who needs to figure out, how to interact with people and not numbers and computers.
No, he doesn't like to talk to the plebs.
But before we do that, we have to show you this ad that like Matt, will get you jacked up to run through walls and make you want to go watch Inception and make Inception noises. So inflation through the roof.
Grocery prices up 11% year over year.
Censorship of dissident voices. Freezing of bank accounts.
Justin Trudeau invoking emergency powers against the truckers. Banks can now freeze their personal accounts, the accounts of anyone linked to the Freedom Convoy.
Digital surveillance and communism spreading.
What do we want?
Basic income! With the basic income, I felt a sense of security because I didn't have to worry about not going hungry, and I didn't have to worry about being kicked out of my apartment.
The government is on the verge of bankruptcy, and they're coming for your money.
Is Canada's federal debt increasing in real time, now surpassing $1.2 trillion. This debt is draining taxpayer dollars, with interest alone costing $54 billion this year.
It's time to break free and start saving in money they can't take from you. Since 2013, the folks at Bull Bitcoin have one mission: destroy central banking. Bull Bitcoin is the most trusted Bitcoin company in Canada. They empower you to buy, sell, and pay bills with Bitcoin. They are 100% non-custodial, which means that you always maintain full control over your Bitcoin, allowing you to reclaim your financial sovereignty and secure your wealth for the future. Their customer support will assist you throughout the whole process, helping you get your hands on the hardest money ever created. Escape their financial gulag, click on the link below, and start buying Bitcoin today and get a $20 bonus as a listener of Liberty Dispatch. So we want to play you three clips, and they're going to build. One of them is, I can't remember the order, but one of them is at that same press conference in England when someone asks him about divesting from his conflicts of interest, and he doesn't know how to handle that. Another one is actually right after he's sworn in, another press conference where he just kind of, shuts it down. And then the third one, I can't remember when it is, but the third one is another press conference. And then after the third one, that's actually taken from a CBC or a Canadian Probda Corporation segment where they also have some commentary about him not able to really navigate people well. So let's play this first one.
And when you're in Europe, are you going to be seeking assurances from Canada's allies that this country will never become America's 51st state? And when would it be an appropriate time for you to take that message to the U.S. president?
Well, I've been clear. Personally, I've been clear. The ministers behind me, I think, to an individual, when asked, have been clear that we will never, ever, in any way, shape, or form, be part of the United States.
Keep an eye on. Keep an eye on. I really need sugar water. Chrystia Freeland in the back. Because I've now ruined it for you. I don't know what she's nodding and twitching at. But
man, she's such a.
Like, I thought we were done with her. I thought we didn't have to kind of look at her and her quest for sugar water, but apparently we got some more of her because she's in Carney's cabinet. So be distracted by her in the back because that's significantly more entertaining than what's coming out of Carney's mouth.
Canada. The nature of Canada means we won't. The economics means we shouldn't. And what you will see from this government is focusing on
he's a little snippy right now. Here we go.
Building with different partners abroad. And that will reinforce the point. It's good. We're doing it for our own reasons, to be clear. For our own people, for the high-paying jobs.
Our allies, sir, do you want to
I don't think we need. I don't think we need to hear it from Nous sommes maîtres. We're masters in our own home. We're in charge. You know, we're in charge. It's always nice when people say nice things about you, but we don't need it. We're not seeking it. What the discussions I will have on behalf of the government in Paris and in London will relate to opportunities that both our countries share, as well as our shared history.
There you go.
Yeah. No, we didn't talk about this. Excuse me. We're in control of our own thing. We're massive. We didn't hear about this. No, thank you. All right, buddy, settle down. Take it easy. Okay.
Yeah. Being really dismissive and smarmy at the same time, while also being more boring than glue.
Ooh, got a new nickname. Mark Smarmy. Oh, look
Mark
at that. You just came up with it.
Dude, they write themselves. They write themselves. Great. Yeah. Here's another clip of Mark being very winsome, Andrew.
Mr. Carney, Stephanie Levitz, Globe and Mail. We understand that you have now placed your assets in a blind trust, so you don't know what's happening to them going forward, but you knew what they were going into that blind trust. So what are they?
Look, Stephanie, I follow the rules of the Ethics Commissioner. I'm following them well in advance of any of the requirements, as you know, because I know you know this. You know that these requirements come into effect in months. We're talking days after I became Prime Minister. So I'm complying with the rules of the Ethics Commissioner, going through the processes and all these things that are necessary. And I will remind you, and I'll remind Canadians again, that the Leader of the Opposition cannot find it. And look, you look at the questions this evening, you look at the nature of the discussions, look at the nature of discussions I had with the President of France, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. The Leader of the Opposition would not be capable of having those discussions because the Leader of Opposition refuses to get his security clearance, something that it took me a few weeks to get. And he has been the Leader of the Opposition for 3 years. So I comply with my responsibilities. I comply with the rules.
Andrew, this is too
well
much.
In advance, and the Leader of the Opposition doesn't take his responsibilities at a time of, well, you should take these responsibilities at any time, but it's particularly remarkable given the stakes in global geopolitics at the moment.
The rules say that those assets should be publicly disclosed within 120 days, which means you'll campaign in a coming federal election, most likely within the next 120 days, and are serving as Prime Minister now, with Canadians not being aware of what potential conflicts of interest you sought to avoid.
What possible conflict would you have, Stephanie? Stephanie, I'm complying with the rules. I'm complying with the rules in advance. Point final.
Are you saying you are not open to any conflict of interest?
Yes.
Trump spent most of his life in the private sector. There's no possible conflict of interest in your assets. It's very difficult to believe.
Look inside yourself, Rosemary. I mean, you start from a...
Anyways, you get the point. I just want to point out, this is friendly media. This is friendly media. He's talking to Rosemary Barton, who I'm pretty sure has the Liberal logo tattooed on her butt. and like maybe Trudeau's face tattooed on the other butt cheek. I'm not sure. She's a lib through and through. And the way that he's not only condescended to that Stephanie reporter, but also the way that he deals with Rosemary is just
look inside
yourself. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm doing everything. I'm doing all the things.
Yeah.
All right, man.
It's also absurd because he's like, oh, Pierre Poilievre couldn't have the special important conversations that I had that apparently were so not special that nobody really took him seriously in France or the UK. He couldn't have him because he doesn't. What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Is this guy really going to be our prime minister? Is this really going to happen? I don't know.
Well, we're gonna talk to our friend Wyatt Claypool about whether or not it will actually happen. But it's possible. It's possible, Andrew. And I think the person to blame for that is none other than Pierre Poilievre. But here's a final clip of our winsome new prime tyrant.
Thank you. Next question, please. Prochaine question. Bonsoir, Frédéric Plante with the Globe and Mail. You were the vice chairman at Brookfield Asset Management prior to
the chair. I was the chair.
Sorry. In the fall, they moved their head office from Toronto to New York. Did you approve of that decision, and what does this say about your commitment to growing Canada's economy and betting on Canada as for now?
Okay, so two things. I just correct a few factual things. One, I was chair of Brookfield Asset Management. I ceased to be chair on the 15th, I think, of January when I announced for leadership. Also ceased to be chair of Bloomberg as well. Ceased to be United Nations Special Envoy on Climate Action Finance. Ceased to be a number of other things.
The humble brag.
All my positions.
Yeah, not only that, but
for Canada, all in.
I'm a globalist that had all the investments outside of Canada, and I just magically made them go away for a bit.
Okay, that's the first thing.
Yeah.
Second, the formal decision of the board happened after I ceased to be on the board. I do not have a connection with Brookfield Asset Management. No longer have a role, obviously, as I resigned in the middle of January.
Thoughts there. He was dealing with a lot of questions that have been part of the criticisms we've seen from the Conservatives in particular leading up to these debates. What did you make of what he had to say?
It was interesting how he fixated on weird things first, like about his title, whether he was called vice chair, and he seemed to take great offense at that. He's the chair. And he said it he interrupted the questioner and then again started his answer delivering it. The way he answered a lot of these things, he didn't feel as prepared as he could have been. As Greg pointed out, he could have had tightened up messaging on this stuff. If you have a story to tell it. But that seems to be, I think, one of the weaknesses he has is communicating in a clear way that people will actually understand. He is a bank of governor. He's a banker. He's a central banker. Talking to everyday people is not something he does. He made a comment during the debate, and I'm seeing it all over social media. He talked about productivity and during the about how people need to be more productive, essentially, and that's why we can't afford groceries. And it's being construed as saying people aren't working hard enough. And I don't know if that's what he meant.
What he means is better productivity means higher wages, so more buying power.
The way he phrased it,
I got you.
It puts it in a bad light.
Yeah, Mel,
there you have it. Mark Carney.
If you want to keep playing that clip, actually, let's go, because specifically the female panelists will say, "Oh, it looks like they're getting under his skin." And again, these are people on the Canadian Pravda Corporation who are admitting this. These are kind of friendlies to him a little bit, who are saying, "Yeah, he's not good at this."
Much more. We have much more. Just so you understand,
Thank you.
Next question, please. Prochaine question. Able to get under his skin and tell that he may be the only one who has.
Yeah, Mel, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the press conference, you could really tell that he may be the only one who hasn't had experience being a politician. It seemed like most reporters were able to get under his skin and get under his skin easily, and the inability to kind of tame that and go to exactly where you want to go. You can't do that in an election cycle. When you're, on a debate stage with the other leaders, that's something that you need to get a lot better at.
Thank you.
Next question, please.
So there you have it. We're going to have a thin-skinned globalist elitist as our next prime minister.
Pierre Poilievre is going to call him Carbon Tax Carney, and he's going to say, Mr. Polyev, my first name is not carbon tax. I have my birth certificate. That's not actually my first name. My first name is Mark. Can we get that right? My name is not. I know.
And then he's gonna tout his resume for Canadians. Look how impressive I am. Oh man, what a loser that guy is. But anyways, let's get into an ad read from our friends at Rocklinc.
Well, financial services are dominated by the big banks and large multinationals. If you think about it, it makes sense. The elites don't want you to think outside the box because that might provide you with greater financial freedom and make you less dependent on the state. We all need to say no to big government and no to big financial institutions and work with independent companies like Rocklinc, who build customized portfolios based on your goals. They also build financial plans consistent with your values. Talk to our friends at Rocklinc Investment Partners. Rocklinc is a firm that shares your Christian values and wants to help you secure your financial independence. Give them a call at 905-631-5462 or email them at info@rocklinc.com. That's Rocklinc with a C, info@rocklinc.com. So that's a lot about Mark's smarmy. This is great. This is like we just, you know what this is like? This is like one of those flip books where it's split in half, and then the top of the flip book is like all these tops of people with different shirts, and then the bottom.
How can you
is
tell you're
pants.
a dad?
So this is what we have here. We basically have it could be Mark's smarmy, it could be Mark Carneyage. It could so much stuff. Maximum smarmy. It all works. It really all works. So we put it together. This is great.
It really does.
So maybe we're gonna have a lot of fun here. Maybe
Mark's commie. Yeah, there's so many good things.
Marximum smarnyage. Let's just throw it all together.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about him. Now, some of the other happenings this week we had to talk about, which are connected to him, are Donald Trump was specifically asked by Laura Ingraham, hey, you keep going hard on this tariff
What's
thing.
What's going on with Canada?
This annexing thing, and it's actually making the Liberals gain in the polls. And if you keep doing this, it looks like the Liberals might win, and that would be bad. So her point is that would be bad for Canada, and it would actually be bad for us. Like in the States, we don't want the Liberal at the helm. Like, so shouldn't you ease up? And Trump, in his ever self-controlled, not just saying what he thinks and feels, has a very interesting take on who he supports and who he would prefer as the leader of Canada.
You know what? Given all the kayfabe of Canadian politics, I much prefer Donald Trump's off-the-cuff authenticity to whatever, like even Pierre Poilievre. I can't stand the sloganeering. Stop it. We've all heard you say bring it home 1,000 times. It's not even a good saying. So stop it.
Well, we're going to have a clip where he's going to have some more sloganeering. I'm sorry.
Well, of course. It's all he's got. And that's part of the problem, Andrew. A lot of listen. This is part of the problem.
You just sounded like Jordan Peterson for a second. You're like, and that's part of the problem, Andrew. The problem is I can't conceptualize of a kind of self-reflective, and really it was Nietzsche that properly understood. But when we understood, like you had a Jordan Peterson moment for a second there.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry.
Well, you've ruined it. I was in the Peterson mode. No, but the problem is Poilievre is not that attractive. Much of the Conservatives' polling and Poilievre's approval ratings had more to do with people's thoughts about Justin Trudeau and him being the foil to Trudeau than they were about him being intrinsically a likable and competent politician. Do I think he's much better than Maximum Carnage, Maximum Smarniage, whatever, like Clowny, whatever you want to call that guy? Yes, in every way he would be better. But this is his fault. He's dealing with this situation. He's reading these tea leaves all wrong. And I think Donald Trump has a better read on the situation. Let's listen to it.
Much more. We have much more. Just so you understand, we subsidize Canada, and I like Canada. I love Canada. I love Wayne
now
Gretzky.
the Liberal guys.
I love his wife.
The Liberal Party is going to win now in the next election, most likely. And they were down and out. Isn't that going to make them more hostile to us and possibly
I'd rather deal with a Liberal than a
for
conservative.
China closer to Canada, and that would really put us in a bind.
The conservative that's running is stupidly no friend of mine. I don't know him, but he said negative things. So when he says negative things, I couldn't care less. I think it's easier to deal actually with a Liberal. And maybe they're going to win, but I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me at all.
So your end game is what with them?
My end game is I don't want to have a big deficit. I don't want to see the United States of America, and you say 60 and I say 200, but it doesn't matter. I don't want us to pay 60 or 200 billion dollars to a country that if they were a state, think of this, it would be our biggest, most beautiful, it would be great.
So I'm confused by this a little bit, and here's why.
Okay, why are you confused, Andy?
Because everything he's been saying about the problems in Canada are due to our Liberal leadership. The fentanyl, the borders being unsecure, even a lot of the extreme subsidizing. It's primarily because of Liberal policy that has put Canada in this position. So initially, when he was sounding the alarm, and at least one of the positions he took, let's put 51st state annexing aside for a bit, because he still, even at the end of the clip, he's still not dropping it. He's still not letting it go. So let's put that aside just for a minute.
But he's also let's be very real. The fever dream of the lib, the progressive, is that he's talking about a military annexation of Canada. That is so not going to happen. He's trying to woo Canadians in the sense that he's trying to say, you'll pay less taxes. Your cost of living will be lower. You'll be more prosperous. We'll be a great nation. We would love to have you. That's the tack that he's actually taking. But if you were talking progressive, they're like, he's preparing the troops to come and get us.
So we'll put that aside for a second. My thinking would be, the problems he's addressed, the problems he's raised with Canada are so because of Liberal leadership. So you would think that in addressing these problems, the answer is addressing the Liberal leadership. So my thinking was he actually wants to see Justin Trudeau back then, now Carney, the Liberals, lose. Because if the Liberals go away and the Conservatives win, a lot of the stuff he's addressing, the Conservatives might do a better job at fixing. So that seems to be what was going on. But this, all of a sudden, openly more supporting Carney over Poilievre.
Yeah,
so,
I would be like a lot of people, and this is how Pierre himself spun it. There was no endorsement of the Liberal Party in that clip, right?
No,
he's just saying
did say I'd rather have a Liberal than a Conservative. He did say that.
Yeah, but why?
I would rather have. So this
that's
is
the question.
So why would he rather have a Liberal? Not because the Liberal will be easier to deal with. Oh well, maybe they will bend over.
I think, but that's what he thinks anyway.
Or is it because Trump understands that with the Liberal Party at the helm, this will continue to plunge Canada into social, moral, and economic ruin, making either his sweet deal of joining the United States or a more pressured play on Canada much more feasible. Because if Canada is plunged even further into ruin, then Trump gets what he wants, which is come and join us, and maybe we'll let you get in worse shape, and then we'll really turn up the heat and maybe even press you a little bit more and be a little more forceful about it. That might be what's at play here, because if he's really concerned about border issues and fentanyl issues, and even Laura Ingraham, I think she raised a good point. If Trump is actually concerned about China's oversized influence in Canada, the last thing you would want would be a Liberal government. How can you say you would prefer Liberals if you're concerned about China's influence and operation just north of your country? That seems totally counterintuitive.
Yeah. Well, can we just take a second and just stop and say, like, that's a friendly interviewer. and she's still you wouldn't see that
because I think she's surprised as well. I think she's also surprised by his response.
No, I'm just like, I appreciate Ingram having enough integrity to have her man, right? A president that she obviously supports, that she wants to succeed, being on Fox News, and they're obviously pro-Republican, but she's still needling him. She's still pressing hard questions. And to me, that's a good reporter there. That's a good journalist who's pressing the issues, even if it might lead to a discussion like this. Very, very entertaining. I don't really know the answer. Is it possible that, Pierre needs more distance from Trump because of Trump derangement syndrome? Trump knows that, right? Because guys like Shapiro and a bunch of these American commentators, even Charlie Kirk, have been kind of catching on to the fact that the polling in Canada has gone much to the liberal direction. All these people know Trump. They're in the ears of his people. So you never know, right? He could be doing this as a way to give plausible deniability, which is exactly what Pierre did, right? He said, oh, this is a perfect example. I can run with it. I'm not a MAGA guy. See, you can vote for me, progressives in Canada, because I'm not a MAGA guy. He doesn't want me to be the guy in helm because the Liberals are weak, and he knows that I'm going to fight for what's best for Canadians. I don't know. Yeah. I have no idea, but it is interesting. It's a very interesting discussion to be had, and very interesting clip.
So speaking
do
of Pierre,
his
now we
authenticity.
Speaking of Pierre, here are Pierre's thoughts on those comments from Donald Trump.
Trump's hometown, 6 days after Trump first threatened to tariff Canada. While these people here were worried about, it's clear that President Trump wants the Liberals in power because they will keep this country weak. After 10 years in power, the Liberals have given us the weakest economy in the G7. They've doubled our housing costs, driven $500 billion to the south, all while Mark Carney was economic advisor to Trudeau, and while Mr. Carney moved his corporate headquarters to New York. Do you know that he moved his headquarters to Trump's hometown 6 days after Trump first threatened to tariff Canada? While these people here were worried about losing their jobs, Mark Carney was busy moving jobs to Trump's hometown. That's exactly the kind of weak, compromised, conflicted leadership that Donald Trump wants, and it's why he endorsed Mark Carney yesterday. What Canadians need, though, is a leader who's tough and firm and stands by his convictions. A leader who will make Canada strong, self-reliant, and stand on its own 2 feet. A leader who will put Canada first.
Bring it home, baby.
Yeah. A leader that will continue to support mass immigration. A leader that will continue to have Canada on pace for the 2030 Paris Climate Accord agenda. A leader who will not stand on principle and be silent in Parliament when the Conservative Party offers a unanimous vote in support of Bill C-4. That's what Canada needs. Mm-hmm. A guy with a nice haircut eating an apple, trolling a buffoon of a reporter. That's what Canada needs. Another Liberal with a blue paint job. That's what Canada needs. But Poilievre is taking an interesting play here, which is Trump. And so he's also focusing on the Trump isn't actually looking for a partnership to make Canada and the state stronger. Mm-hmm. Poilievre's take is Trump is a bad man that wants a weak Canada because all Trump cares about is taking advantage of Canada in order to benefit the states. That's Poilievre's take here. So his take is not, I can work with Trump. We can make both our countries better. His take is Trump is bad. He's a bad actor. No matter what, he is going to be seeking the welfare of the states to the detriment of Canada. So we need someone that's going to stand in his way as much as possible.
Yeah.
That's what he's putting forward.
And I don't know if, I don't know. See, I'm confused about his tact. I know he's probably, I know the Trump derangement syndrome is a thing, but I don't understand his tack, because if he went in, he's never been a mega guy. He's never gone to Donald Trump and been kind of open to having discussions. He's always kept them at arm's length. And I do think, Trump loves making deals. If you can give him a good deal, if Pierre Poilievre came and said, hey, we're going to break the dairy cartel in Canada. We're going to, allow American banks in Canada. If we're going to do, get rid of our silly supply management, like our communist economic experiments and stuff like that. If we're going to do those things, if we're going to, be partners and friends and have more free trade, it's going to prosper both of us. So we're going to do it. We would love to do that. But that's it. I don't think it needs to be so either or. But I do think Poilievre. So this is the problem with the Conservative Party in Canada. They live under the liberal gaze, and Poilievre is not bigger than that. And he shows it all the time, because anytime he can punch hard to his right, anytime that he can come in and distance himself from a controversial figure that might have the progressive elites in Canada all up in arms, he will take that opportunity. And I think it's a weird tact. I'm not here for it. Also, the optics are weird. Someone on his team has to either raise the cameras, make sure they're higher, or they have to lower. He's got like such a large placard on the front of his podium. It makes him look like he's 4 feet tall, and it's weird. It's awkward. Somebody's got to fix that on the Conservative team.
So the last clip we want to show you.
Oh, this is your boy.
Yeah, please don't teach me how to Dougie. Doug Ford.
You need to forget.
Doug Ford's basically asked, hey, Poilievre or Carney, right? Like, this is a softball. You are the leader of the Ontario Progressive Conservative Party. You're the Premier of Ontario. And someone's saying, hey, federally, do you like the Liberal guy or the Conservative guy?
Should be a no-brainer.
Should be, well, the Conservative guy. That's the right answer. This is what my Premier says when asked this question.
Do you think you have a better relationship with Mark Carney or Pierre Poilievre?
I don't know either one of them, to be very frank.
He just looks like a dork. Yeah, I mean, that's a politician's answer if I've ever heard one. I mean, why doesn't he know Pierre Poilievre? Right? Like, that's very suspicious. Why doesn't he know Pierre Poilievre?
My head is hurting. Because he's having breakfast with Mark Carney.
Yeah.
He's posting about the incredible friendship he has with Chrystia Freeland, because they've been
Justin
through battle
Trudeau
together.
Yeah.
And Justin Trudeau's my boy.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't understand what's happening, Matt. I don't understand. I don't. Now, my frustration is not because I want to see the Conservatives win. My frustration is I don't understand what I don't see the play right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to admit, I'm going to be open. I'm going to be totally honest here that, in the last few months, a couple months ago, it looked like that there was a clear play here, a clear play with the provincial Conservatives in Ontario, with the federal Conservatives, with not only their relationship one to another, but their interaction with Trump in the United States. It looked like the play was clear, and I feel pretty comfortable about what I think Trump is doing. It's not everyone holds that position, but I think I'm pretty comfortable with the fact that Trump is. I think he's more serious about expansion than people give him credit for. I think at the end of the day, in order to protect the United States and in order to create an American Iron Dome, he needs to have a fairly decent control over the land north and south of him. in order for him to provide the military and economic protection that he needs for the United States, because he's about America first.
Yeah.
And he needs to acquire or at least have a seat at the table controlling the property north and south of him in order for him to do that. And so I think he's more of an expansionist and more of a colonialist than people might think. That's Trump. But when it comes to Canada, I know Carney's play. It's easy. We know what he's doing. He's doing the globalist.
He's trying to run off to Europe. That's
all. That's his job. But what I don't get is I don't get the conservative play.
No. Me neither.
Unless the conservative play is, and unless this is where I was wrong, because I thought the play was this: Trudeau drives Canada as far left as Canadians will stomach.
Mm-hmm.
They bring in Carney, knowing that he's not supposed to win, but that once the conservative, so Trudeau drives it all the way to the left. Poilievre comes in, just absolutely crushes, and the Conservatives could just dominate in Ontario and in Ottawa, and essentially we'll have 1, 2, 2.5 terms of Poilievre, and then eventually they'll get fed up, and they'll go back to the Liberals. And the degree to which Trudeau moved the party to the left, the Conservatives won't bring it back anywhere near that. So overall, it's a leftward drift. So I thought the play was the Conservatives crush right now. They drop our defenses. They don't really do anything. And then once the Canadians are sick of Poilievre, then Carney at the helm will continue to drive Canada into a woke hellscape. I thought that was the play. But it doesn't look like that's what's happening right now. And I have no idea, because because Doug Ford and Pierre Poilievre, it doesn't look like they are doing the thing that's going to help them win. It seems like they are not stupid, and the people around them don't understand the way politics work. It almost looks like they are tanking this thing on purpose. And the only reason why I think that is because maybe the play all along was to have the Liberals just drive this thing even more to the left than we thought, and just plunge the car over the cliff already. Maybe that's the play. Maybe there was a hope. Maybe our hopes were up, and now, oh nope, it's actually going to be this way. But I really don't. I don't see what Poilievre and Ford are trying to accomplish here.
This gets the point that I want to make. I think Donald Trump has exposed the Conservatives in Canada for the fake Conservatives that they actually are, in the way that they're dealing with this. Because, like we've talked about, it's almost eerily the same as COVID, that all these politicians in Canada are taking nearly the exact same tack, the exact same position. And, like Pierre Poilievre, he's supposed to be the sound economics guy. Dude, you've been reading Austrian economics, and you think reciprocal tariffs, you think throwing tariffs on U.S. goods is a good way to respond to this? Like, come on, that's idiotic beyond all belief. You actually think this is a fight we can win? Like,
but that's what I mean. He has to know that it's not. So then why is he doing it?
No, exactly.
That's what I don't.
And that's the baffling thing.
I'm unsure of right now.
It's, to me,
it looks like they're tanking on purpose.
To me, well, it
looks like
I hesitate to go there. I just think they live like all these people. Pierre Poilievre is a career politician. He's lived in the Ottawa swamp for a very large percentage of his life. Okay. He's a swamp creature, as much as we might not want to admit it. He is. And you hear it in the way that he talks. Political slogan stitched together with political slogan. It's very irritating. Pierre has not done a good job distinguishing himself from the Liberals. And his fake conservatism comes out in dire moments like this, because he lives under the liberal gaze, and he just can't, instead of saying, this is a perfect opportunity for me to sewer my opponent by showing just how weak he is, and by me going and fixing the situation, by me using this as an opportunity to push my worldview, right? Instead of reciprocal tariffs, it's, these are 25% tax on Canadians. Every time Donald Trump raises the taxes, I'm going to lower them on Canadians. We're getting rid of the carbon tax everywhere. We're getting rid of taxes on housing. We're getting rid of the income. Like, put forward proposals within your own world and life view that can act as a big foil at this time, but that would actually be a help to Canadian citizens. Canadian citizens are being hurt by overtaxation, and we're getting taxed again with the tariffs. So what are you going to do? Get rid of tax? Like, to me, I just don't understand it. The Conservatives have always done this. They play within the Overton window that the left has set. And until they get out of that and they're willing to take the bad press and say, like Donald Trump, I don't care, like JD Vance, frankly, I don't care, Martha. Until they're willing to take that tact, they might lose forever.
Yeah, and it seems strange because up until this point, for the last 2 years, we know he's a snake, but Pierre Poilievre has been giving Canadians exactly what they want to win his approval and favorability. He has been doing, and how many times have I said on the show that whatever WWF person is writing his promos needs to get a raise because he is killing it on the mic. So for the last 2 years, he has been giving Canadians, he's been giving them the catnip. He's been giving them exactly what they want. They're eating out of his hand. His approval rating was incredible. The party's approval rating, all the polling. He's been saying exactly what he needs to say to win because that's all he cares about. He's not principled. He's living based on the polls. He's pragmatic. He wants to win. So he's been giving Canadians everything that they want to hear in order to help him win. So why now, all of a sudden, would he stop doing that?
Maybe he has the yips.
He has to understand that this is not what people want.
Yeah, like maybe he has the yips. Maybe he has the yips. Like, honestly, like he does seem to, like, his he doesn't seem to have the same confident tact. Yeah, maybe it's, it's a chance. Like, he's been doing good. The championship fight is upon him, and he's freezing. He's succumbing. I don't know, man. It's confusing.
Doug Ford too.
Well, he's always been a fake conservative.
I know, but even still, even though he's a fake conservative, he has to understand that even he has handlers telling him, you need to help us win federally, right? Doug, you're not helping us.
Yeah,
you're not helping us. It looks like they're throwing the fight. It looks like they're throwing the fight. They know exactly what they're doing. They know that it's hurting the Conservative Party. They know that it's helping the Liberals. It's almost like you have to try hard to be this stupid and fail this spectacularly.
Well,
you don't just stumble into this. You have to work hard, fail this much, and be this stupid.
Yeah,
that doesn't happen on its own.
I mean, so we're going to talk with our friend Wyatt Claypool about just this, about some of the polling, about what's happening with the Conservatives and how, because, I mean, we're talking, this is an epic fall in polling, if it can be trusted. We're literally talking, they had an almost insurmountable, like 25 to 30, 40%
point lead, 26-point lead, a comfortable 26-point
and now even, I think Juno News just posted their recent poll, because they're conducting their own polls, that actually showed that it was pretty close to tie. So we're going to talk to Wyatt Claypool about this. So I know you're going to want to watch that episode. But to watch that episode, you have to go over to ldcanada.substack.com to see the full thing, because we're going to have that in-depth conversation with him, because it's a head scratcher. And I know he nerds out on Canadian politics and he might have some insight into it, Andrew. But here we are. Here we are as Canadians. New PM, meet the new boss, same as the old boss, just way more dull. And truly confused and confusing Conservative Party response. It's been a disaster.
Like I said in the lead, and it almost seems like we have been on a roller coaster ride since March 2020.
Yeah.
And the coming into 2025, it felt like, okay, at least for a while, Canada might be getting off that roller coaster for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But now it looks like
the Ides of March.
It looks like tick 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 as we're making our way up, and then it looks like we're approaching. And so I wasn't just being witty when I said, friends, I think you need to strap in. Like I think that the second half of 2025 is going to be something. I think it's going to be something, because here's what we know for sure between now and the end of the calendar year. There will be a federal election. There, at least on the books, is a voluntary and then mandatory buyback for firearms. It looks like the carbon tax will be going up April 1st. So that's going to be devastating. So and I'm not saying doom and gloom, everyone get to your fallout shelters. What I'm saying is it's going to be bumpy. Like it looks like it's going to be quite the year. And so maybe it would be wise for us to, we talk about some of the sponsors and friends of the show. It'd be wise for you to really think about your finances, your wealth, your saving, your spending. That would be wise to think about education. That would be wise to think through these things, because listen, I'm not a Debbie Downer, but it looks like it's going to get worse before it gets better. I thought that maybe things were turning a certain way. Maybe there'd be a brief reprieve. There might not be. It looks like it's going to be a bumpy for a bit. So be ready for that. And we're here for you. We're here to help you.
Yeah.
We're here to help you navigate the mess. So I want to remind two things. One, you have to head over to ldcanada.substack.com. That's the only way to join our mailing list. That's the only way to get all the updates. That's the only way to get access to all the content. If you are a paid subscriber, you have to do that. Also, that's also the only way that you will get the information and the link for our Bitcoin webinar series. 3-part webinar series, Friday, April 25th, May 2nd, and May 9th, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Bitcoin for freedom. Bitcoin is the liberty currency. Bitcoin 101, how to buy and store Bitcoin. We'll be hosting it. Will be audience participation, questions. Pablo and the guys at Bull Bitcoin will be running the whole deal. The only way you're going to get access to that is if you subscribe, because we'll send you the link. And then, as always, with any questions, any comments, especially with an episode like this, and maybe even with the upcoming interview release about tariffs and sedition and secession and treason and annexation, make sure you reach out to us at libertydispatch@pm.me for any of the questions, comments, concerns. Oh boy, but don't eat lots of corn dogs and funnel cakes, because we're not getting off the roller coaster yet. And the last thing you want is to plunge into a cloud of your own vomit, because the ride is intense. Be sober-minded. Matt, take us home.
It's for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm, therefore, and do not submit again to a yoke of slavery. Until next time, everybody, God bless you all.
Liberty Dispatch has been brought to you by SDG Media. If you want to stay in touch with us and all things Liberty Dispatch, join our email list, or support the show, head over to ldcanada.substack.com.